Hello, everyone. I am Nikki Evans, the Chief Learning Officer here at DNA Behavior and a behavioral storyteller and story shaper. And so I'm very excited to be here interviewing our founder and CEO, Hugh Massie, for his identity interview. So welcome, Hugh.
Thank you, Nikki. I'm honored for you to be facilitating this call today.
Well, I'm so excited to have this conversation. So I will start with just tell us a little bit about your career story. And how did you get to be the founder of DNA Behavior? So
I suppose in a way, I'm a reformed accountant is one way of looking at it. You know, my journey is when I left school, I did accountancy and economics at university in Australia. And I suppose by doing that degree, I always thought I needed to be an accountant. So I went and worked with a large accounting firm so that I could get the best education and training possible. That's what I was told to do by my family, and also all my friends were doing the same thing. And I think we'd all had pretty similar upbringings, so we just sort of learned that that's something you do to get your meal ticket. So I went and did it, and I spent 10 years with Arthur Andersen. First 18 months or so was in auditing, which in a way was a great experience. And then I became a tax specialist, which for the most part, I love doing. And I had a great opportunity to work in Southeast Asia for 4 years, in Singapore and Thailand. And I think there's something that happened to me there that was important, in that I went to places where I had to be a little bit more of an entrepreneur. I had to stand on my own 2 feet more. There was less structure. And because I was a foreigner dealing with foreign clients in those environments, I had more freedoms, which also meant I had to perform. I had to live up to it. But also I was handed the reins of training, and I did a lot of training of taxation systems, even though I didn't maybe know the most in those countries because I was a bit of a newbie. And that got me in love with educating people, because I always loved to educate. And when I went back to Australia, I was put in charge of the tax training programs for everybody below a manager level. And I love standing up the front and teaching the others the methodology, in a way, to read the tax code, to understand the tax code, how to deal with commercial situations. So, that was my early career, but somewhere I lost my passion for very heavy tax research. I think working in a large firm started to not agree with me. And I thought, I'm 30 years old. I've got to make a choice. Now, do I stay with it and progress to the next level? Or do I go out on my own? I'm not married. If it doesn't work out, it's okay. I'm not affecting other people's lives. I can just go out and do it. But at that point, Nikki, I did know that having been I was fortunate enough in some ways to be an investor myself through helping my family, but also some of my own exploits. So I understood what it was to get good and bad client service from accountants, lawyers, and financial advisors and whatnot. And I always felt that humans needed to be understood. And so that was a driver there to go and do something maybe that was unique myself, but I didn't know really what it was. And I had the sense that I have to go on the street with nothing and figure it out, because I'm not going to figure it out sitting in the accounting firm. And I need to go and try things to work out what would work. But I also looked at the people above me at the time, and they weren't all happy doing what they were doing. And I thought, yeah, okay, so I don't need to follow that path. And, they were great people, but it was a tough place to work. So at the end of the day, I left, put myself out on the street. I set up a few months later what became a wealth management firm. I got licensed. I actually did an MBA course. I don't tell many people about that, but that's what I did in entrepreneurship. And I did a financial planning course, I got a diploma in financial planning. I became a certified financial planner in effect, and started acquiring clients. And we did all sorts of things. So I did some deals with them. I did some investing. But I got to about 3.5, 4 years into the business, and a friend of mine asked me one day, Hugh, what are you really passionate about? You don't seem that happy with what you're doing. And I said, I don't think I am. And she said to me, well, what are you passionate about? And I'd never, ever answered that question before, been asked it, and certainly not answered it. But immediately came out of my mouth was that I wanted to help people all over the world become self-empowered. And that rocked me at the time enough, more than rocked me, it completely jolted me through every chord of my body. And I went and thought about, okay, what does this mean? And I was smart enough to know, okay, if that message is coming to me from nowhere, it means something, because I'd already been writing a journal for a few years. I was trying to work out who I was really. And so, I took that and thought, okay, how am I going to operationalize this, and what am I? And I thought at the time that I was a mentor to people, and that being a wealth mentor to people, I was good at giving them rational financial advice, what to do with their investments, how to deal with their life. And so that felt good to me. It wasn't just pure managing money. There was more going on in dealing with people's lives. And I knew that this wasn't going to be about teaching people what a stock or a bond was. It was about teaching them about themselves. And that set me on a journey, to explore it more. And I realized, okay, if I'm going to do this well, I need to understand people. I need to understand behavior. So I read my journal that I've been writing for 3 or 4 years, from about the time I left Arthur Andersen. And in there was all this commentary about human behavior, human behavioral systems, what is instinctive behaviors. People have these behavioral flips. I could see it going on when I did tax advice. Everyone wants to avoid tax, but the moment that the pressure came to either signing the tax return with this huge claim in it, they'd back off, or they get very upset if there was ever a claim from the tax office or whatever. That people's risk appetites are not what they would say it was. Under pressure, people make all these emotional decisions. So I was figuring out there's something else going on when people are under pressure. And I was lucky enough to have somebody step into my life right on the day that I needed it, who explained to me what natural instinctive behavior was. And her name is Carol Pocklington, who works on our team.
Yep.
And it all clicked. And I thought, okay, I said, Carol, I've got to have a system. There's nothing out there that does this in the whole area of financial personality. Even really at the time, there wasn't much that I could see out there in just general team building, talent development. You need to help me find a way to have this. And I think that became the transformational point for me. And, I was sitting at home one day, Nikki, and I was thinking about all this. How do I piece it together? How do I build a business? And the client said to me, Hugh, you are our wealth mentor. We don't just come to you for investment. So, okay, I knew that I'd gone to a new place, but I was still in this self-development phase, and this would have been 2001. Now, so it's a year after, the year I met Carol. So probably the end of that year, I'm sitting at my house with Carol, and I realized I had a big decision to make. Do I go down the path of building behavioral systems, full on, commercializing them? That probably meant going into the American market because they would understand it more. Or do I stay in Australia and I build out the wealth management business, but I do more work in real estate because I was always good at dealing with real estate? And that was a really big tear for me, because my whole identity was at stake, because people saw me at this time as this very rational business guy, good at dealing with money. They perceived, that I was a great investor, et cetera, and how I was living, and could see me as an accountant, tax advisor, wealth manager. But but there was this other role side to me that had not been unlocked. And I knew from my boyhood dreams, and this might sound soft to a lot of people, but I got in touch with what those were. I wanted to have a global business, and I wanted to have my opportunity to do it, and I wanted to have my opportunity to build a brand in it, not just invest in other people's global businesses, which I a little bit been doing in areas like telemedicine and cybersecurity. So I was already onto those things back then, so I could see things early. And I thought, this is it. I've got to change paths here, but it made me cry. I sat there and I cried in my house, and I thought, okay, no one's going to understand me. What on the earth is Hugh doing, and why is he going to start pushing his pathway across to America? I'm leaving a great lifestyle, every trapping in the world, friends, whatever, but I have to do this for myself to unlock my own potential. And that's really the pathway to where we are today with DNA behavior. Okay, this is 20 years ago now, just around now, 20 years ago, we announced our 20-year birthing or founding. Last week was when I first ventured into building systems, but I hadn't yet committed to a globalization path or anything like that at that point, but I probably knew that's what it would be. And that's where it's been. And it's been, that journey of sticking at it, because my purpose was there. I wanted to empower people. I wanted to help them understand who they were so they could make better decisions in their life, live a life of meaning, fulfillment, unlock their human potential. And that's what I'm about. And in a way, I was about that before that, I think, but I didn't know how to do it. It was expressed in a very different way, in a very different career path. But now it's, much more behavior. But I think there's a coming together of the two. They don't work together. It's not just human behavior. It's the financial piece tied in together. So that's a long explanation of, how we've got to this place today. But it's been, definitely for me personally, a journey of discovery, searching, but always moving forward in that direction and taking it. And as each life experiences come, it's narrowed down a bit. It's got a bit tighter. I've made mistakes along the way. I'm human too, whether it's with people or decisions. But for the most part, I'm still standing and breathing. So that's a good thing. And we've got a team, and you can see it. We've got opportunities that we're launching in the UK, South Africa, Hong Kong right now. America and Canada and Europe, along with, we've touched a lot of other places. And so I'm glad I in a way stuck to the dreams, found this other side of me. And, I enjoy the leadership of it, but I also enjoy what it stands for each day, and also to, in a way, help other people. I think, we talked about this before, trailblaze their pathways too, because that's what's going to unlock them, but have the confidence to do it.
Yeah. So it sounds like a lot of pivots happened. First, this is like, I can't do the corporate thing forever. So that was a bit of a pivot. And even before that, teaching is a thing that I really enjoy, not just researching tax code. So that was a small pivot, and then another pivot. And then, I heard you say, then meeting Carol was another big pivot. And then, really trying to systemize and figure out and make the choice that if I want to have a global impact, I'm going to have to make a really hard decision here. And take another really big risk and do something even bigger than what I'm comfortable with, and then what people around me are going to see, because I'm already living a great life and touching people and wealth mentoring and being very successful at it where I am. But I'm going to have to take another big leap and let go of some of this comfort if I really want to have this global impact that that I'm being drawn to have and really empower people. And so it sounds like you've been able to kind of continue to see the path, continue to see a new trail at each of those points, as long as you felt like it was moving you toward this and empower people to really make good decisions
I think you've put that together really well, and I think each stage of the journey has unlocked me a little bit, and it's got me to climb up to the next piece. So I had to be in that corporate world, see what that was about, get some overseas life experiences and business experiences. Whenever I've been thrown out there in the ocean in a way, I've always managed to swim. Somehow I've figured it out what to do, both, in a intellectual sense, but also emotionally. I've figured out what to do. And
so, pioneering and risk taking are two of sort of these big traits that that you see over and over in this pattern. Okay, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to go out on my own. Okay, I'm going to take this really successful thing and parlay it into something else that I don't know yet how to do. I'm really curious, when you developed, because I know you worked with a lot of people to develop the questionnaire for DNA, were there any surprises for you when you took it for yourself?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. There were surprises in the sense that, okay, I got the results back, and I could see three things sitting inside there. You're much more of a risk taker than you realize you are, and with that, extremely risk tolerant. You're more of a goal setter than I think people always knew I was a goal setter. I was always very focused, hardworking. On my day when I wanted to be extremely competitive, whether that's pretty much with anything, when I turn my mind to it and I know I can win, I'm going to go out there and win. Not playing dirty. It was never any of that. Just straight out, holding myself together and being resilient and backing myself. And I think that's the competitive spirit. I think the other part's very important is there's a lot of resilience that I could see that sort of comes from that fast-paced trait that we have, and understanding that meant resilience. So what I knew was if I put myself on the edge, I was going to be able to hold it together. And that's really important because that reinforced to me I could go and do it. I think if I didn't know that, I would have backed off and got back down the other path of building out a wealth management business and some kind of real estate organization. But I would never be as fulfilled as I am today, and I wouldn't have tested the boundaries. And, I give nothing up to have had one chance to test the boundaries. And there may be more boundaries that get tested yet. And that's who I am, but I can hold myself together through that journey and not lose it.
So that's really interesting that one insight changed your level of confidence, even though you're a high risk taker, even though you're very pioneering. Like I could hear that in your story about Arthur Andersen. Like, do I want to compete in this game? No, not really. I'll go play a different game because I know that if I stay with this game, then I'm going to want to win, right? And whatever that means to you, get to the top of that organization. I don't really want that. So, you were able to pivot and go someplace else, but it's really interesting to me. And I think part of the power of what the DNA tools do is to help you put words to and lean confidently into these things that you really see as strengths in your profile. And so just that extra insight of your ability to be resilient in these things allowed you to take an even bigger risk than most people would understand, and that maybe even you thought was possible, because you saw that there was opportunity for you to manage through that in a way that wasn't going to be detrimental to your overall vision for yourself.
Absolutely, Nikki, that is exactly it. I knew when I got those results that I could take the risk and I could have a chance at it, and that it wouldn't be pretty the whole way through. I didn't know what was going to happen. I still don't know what's going to happen, but I knew I would be able to handle it, and that gave me the confidence to go and do it. I never really got more confidence in my life, in a jack up in confidence than at that point. I think that the next steps came from this. Put me in a whole new world. I was in a whole new playground now, and for the most part, I've met very positive people that have supported me, developed me, given me lessons, some good, some bad, some tough. that have enabled me to grow in that. And, you know, that's a gift in its own right. And I think that's always told me that I'm in the right place, and I've been able to continuously grow. I don't think I could have done this in Australia. I would have always been, I think, somewhat held back from where I came from, you know, in my upbringing. Not that my family has ever been negative, but it's just there's always legacies there. There's legacies in how other people perceive you, and America, I think, is a country that you can come and use your talents, find meaning, and live it, and you will grow. I don't think that's so easy somewhere else. And it wasn't going to be as easy as that for me in Australia. Doors open up for me in America, and therefore other parts of the world, that they don't elsewhere. And I've had to accept that. Some days it hurts because I've got a lot of friends in Australia and I love going there. But for me to fulfill my potential, I've had to do this. And you know, I'm lucky as well. I've got a great wife and family, and they're in my life now. And I wouldn't have anything else. And I think, but you know, I do believe we're put on this earth with a set of talents and a set of circumstances, and you're meant to search and find what your calling is and what you're going to go and do about it and maximize your potential. And that's what I want to help others people do. And I want them to see, you know, my story, which is one story, but see that, you know, here's a man who found his passion and purpose and has gone and done it. And with that, an identity. And, you know, I don't, as I was saying to someone yesterday down at the golf course, I don't define my existence by how much money I have. I don't want to be defined that way. That's something that's, I think that can ruin people a lot. And that's a driver in here as well. You know, people perceive me as a man of wealth. Well, they don't know what I have or don't have. And that isn't really important, because if I'm going to be defined that way, then that's not measuring my impact. I could never have enough money that positively define my impact in that sense from a financial perspective. But if I can impact millions of other people in the world, which we've started to do, to find their identity, their pathway in the world that unlocks them to achieve their maximum potential, or to do at least start to do better, then I've achieved something.
Yeah. So it sounds like, you know, as I think about all of the, you know, the pioneering and the risk taking that you've had to do to try to find this path for yourself to a real identity and a real purpose, it does sound a little bit, and you mentioned this earlier, like maybe being that trailblazer for other people. Here's a path, here's a tool, here's the process that you can use to find this identity for yourself, really has become part of your identity. As that guide, or that, you know, that trail guide or trailblazer to find the process or the path to really help draw other people along that journey as well. All of our paths will be different than yours. Our experiences, our passions, our talents will be different than yours. But really, it sounds to me like some of your identity is really around helping people find that path for themselves, find that answer for themselves that really drives them and allows them the confidence to lean into their strengths and make their decisions.
Yeah, I think absolutely, Nikki. For me standing out there and being a leader, which is what this is about, I think that's foremost. And finding my own identity and then trailblazing that for myself, you know, hacking through the woods, climbing mountains, climbing Mount Everest, back down the other side, having a few tumbles on the way, but still showing it's possible to stand up and smile and life to be okay. You know, as someone taught me a couple of weeks ago, you know, you just say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 back to yourself, you know, it's okay. You're going to be all right tomorrow, and you keep on with it. It's good. But having the clarity all the time that, you know, if you follow your purpose and you stay authentic, stay aligned, things will happen. And As another person I recently met, Jesse Itzler, said, you're one meeting away from success. And I think you've got to believe that. And so for me, I've opened up the doorway for myself, maybe the hard way, but I can take through doorways millions of other people behind me, yes, who are going to find their unique trails and pathways. And that's what it's all about, to have that, tailor-made, customized life experience, and to show that it's possible. It might take 2 years and it might take 20 or 30. Doesn't matter. The joy is in the journey and having fun while you're at it, and taking every experience that you get is adding to the pot to make you better.
So now that you have identified kind of where your identity is and the impact that you're looking to make on the world, what's next for you? Where do you find significance every day?
Well, that's important, because in our, in our business, we've built great technology systems, as you know. They're pretty robust, and we've got a great team, and you're part of it, and Ryan, and Leon, and others there as part of the support teams as well. I could say, okay, I don't need to do too much in the business each day, but I need my own meaning and a place to contribute. And, we've sat there and we've discussed it. And really, at the end of the day, for me, to sit down with as many people as I can, whether, one-on-one or in groups, and help them find their identity, that's the number one thing for me. And I can do that in one-on-one conversations, and I know I can do it from the stage in motivating them to start that journey, and using the systems and our tools. And that, I think that's a great place for me, and that will take me however long that takes. And coming secondary to that is the fact that, I would say I'm proud of it, that we have operationalized and made practical the world of behavioral finance. We've been able to build the insights that blend together human behavior and money, because money is such a powerful energy that, it makes lives. It can help you advance if you know what to do with it, but it can totally destroy you, whether you're rich or poor. And I think that's also part of the identity journey, is to ensure people don't define themselves by how much money they have. They define themselves for something that's much deeper inside them, and that's a gift. If that's happened to make them a lot of money, great. Or they will in the future, fantastic. Money is what makes the world go around. It's very important, but it's got its place, and it's got to be well managed. And that's not just invested, that's emotionally managed as well. And so I think we're in a great position to take people on that pathway, to find out who they are, what their real talents are, get them to live that journey, and then to manage themselves along that journey, and hopefully build great relationships, not have a life of regret. That's so important. And I think my work is going to be in that zone for quite a long time as a business leader, helping people find that identity, really trailblazing it, being their champion. I think as part of helping people trailblaze their identity, I will be their champion. They can see, here's someone who did it. And there's other people around me doing it too, yep. and bringing them together. And the more people we bring together in this community who are well-versed in their identity, have the confidence to live it and doing it, and they connect, we're going to have an exponential number of people having the courage to live it, do it, and be helped to find it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Hugh, I just have to ask, in addition to, of course, your award-winning book, Leadership Behavior DNA, what's on your reading list right now? What do you recommend people dig into?
Well, I'm reading it for the third time. I would really encourage people as individuals to read the book by Bill Wursma, The Power of Identity, and to discover some of what I'm saying and have done in my own life so far in there, and to understand those messages. I really think that's a key step for your life. And if you're a business owner, again, you've got to understand this for yourself personally, so that you can find your own place in your business and grow it exponentially. So your business identity is going to come from your personal identity. So, Nikki, I think that's really important that people do that. But I think also, just generally speaking, keep yourself educated, be prepared to learn, be curious, accept mistakes will happen, learn from them, try not to make the same one twice. And then just engage with people, because at the end of the day, it's the relationships that you create that will be your pathway to success. You don't need a lot of them, but you need good ones. And I think that's something that we sort of talk about, but I would reinforce that part's so important.
Absolutely. And I love that, the tools that you've helped us create help people to do that. If you don't know where to start, the DNA discovery is a place to start to do that, and is a part of the path to discovering your identity. So excited to have this conversation with you. Is there anything else that you want to leave us with before we wrap up our conversation today?
No, I think, find your identity, have the courage to live it, and always have the character, as my good friend and mentor on this journey, Lee Ellis, says, is, have the courage to do the right thing. And that's by yourself, but also by others. And, if you do that, I think good things will come into your life.
Excellent. Well, Hugh, it's been a pleasure talking to you and learning from you today. And I look forward to our continued journey together.
Thank you, Nikki. It's been fantastic.
Care.